Hi, this is Ijama, and before this week's episode starts, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. In the new year, I'm going to be starting a mailbag or Twitter bag where I'll ask a question or ask for commentary, and out of everyone who responds, I'll select one respondent and I'll promo your Etsy shop or your business or your personal brand in this spot right here before the episode begins. Quick 30 seconds. You tell me exactly what you want me to say. Thank you.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me this week on the podcast. A couple of things. If you want to connect with me and other Etsy Convo listeners and people who've been on the podcast, there is a Facebook group. It's called Etsy Conversations. It's free and open to anyone who wants to join. Come over there. We continue the conversation there. You can promote your Etsy shop there as well. And we exchange information. I like to just provide helpful information for Etsy sellers, things that are going on, things that you might want to be aware of, in addition to the shop promotion. There's also the Etsy Conversations podcast Facebook page. There you'll see what's going on with the podcast, and any announcements I have will appear there. And I'm on Twitter as well at ConvoMe Podcast. You can reach out to me there as well. And my guest today, my goodness, she and I have been talking for a long time online, and finally we get to have a conversation for the podcast. So I'm really excited to have Angie on. We've been working out our schedules and timing with the summer and all that, and finally we were able to make it happen. Angie, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm glad to. How long did it take us? A while.
Well, I remember the first time that I emailed you, I was sitting at a hotel by the pool. It was quite luxurious. I was watching my kids swimming. And so I remember emailing you then, and I want to say that was at least 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I had been listening to you for a long time before that. So I have to say that this is really fun because I feel like I know you already. Like when you called me, your voice was so soothing. Because I listen to the podcast while I'm working often. So it's really fun to actually be able to carry on a conversation with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know. I feel like I know you because we emailed back and forth so much. And then we got off not just talking about the podcast, but then other stuff. And so it's like, oh, hey, Angie, what's up?
I know. I was telling everybody when I was getting ready to do this, I was like, yes, my friend is going to call me and do a podcast with me.
Yeah, I know. It kind of feels that way. So thank you. Now, Angie runs the Etsy shop Gathered and Sown. She opened her shop on July 19th, 2008. Ooh, you're an early adopter, kind of, huh?
Well, sort of.
Okay. Right. And as of today, she has 771 sales and 224 five-star reviews. And Angie, that's excellent.
Yes, I know. And actually, I will say that I started my shop. I'm one of these people, I hear this oftentimes, is that I started my shop and then I really didn't do anything with it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It kind of sat there. But once I did start actually using my Etsy shop, it just really went quickly from there.
Okay.
So I've been really lucky.
How did you discover Etsy actually?
I was thinking about that this morning, and I don't know. I remember somebody must have told me about it because I was making purses and just selling them locally, mostly just to people that I knew. And I'm pretty sure someone just must have asked if I ever heard of Etsy. And so I probably just went on and signed up. But it was so long ago that I can't remember how I discovered it, which is kind of funny.
I know. Yeah, because I think Etsy started, I want to say about 2007.
Okay.
Or 2008. I think it was 2007. But yeah.
So it looks like I'm one of the veteran.
Right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I usually talk about this in shop promotion, but I want to bring it up now because one of the things I see is that you have two upcoming markets, and earlier in the month, well, was it earlier this month? No, last month. In September, I should say, you were organizing a local artisan market. So you do a lot of local shows.
Well, I actually typically do one.
Okay.
And I'm kind of glad you brought this up because I'm really excited about this. Every November, the second Thursday in November, for the last, I think, 4 years, I think this is going to be my fifth year, I did an open house in my home for anybody locally who wanted to come and see. And it's become something that people have expected. And last year was my biggest year so far. And I usually would invite friends who made things or sold things. And I'd set up like a little mini market in my home.
Wow.
And this last year, over I think I had it set up for 2 hours. And I had 80 people come through in those 2 hours in my house.
Into your home?
Into my home.
Wow.
And it was shoulder to shoulder in here. It was my husband and I had to move all of the furniture out of my house just so that we could get set up. So it was a really big ordeal. And so I made the decision to move it out of my house this year. And then with that decision, I also decided that it's going to be strictly 100% handmade with an Etsy type feel. Because I can't really say it's an Etsy event, but I have a lot of Etsy sellers who have applied and are now into my show. And so it's going to be on the same Thursday, the second Thursday of November. But I'm expanding it to be 4 hours instead of 2, and it's going to be in a really nice coffee shop here in the town that I live in. So I'm excited about it.
That's excellent. Now, how did you connect with the local Etsy sellers in your area?
It's crazy, but they seem to find me. Some of them I already knew. One of my closest friends, actually, she just left my house a few minutes ago. She also sells purses on Etsy, and I met her through the Shop Local feature a couple of years ago.
Right.
And we live in a smaller town, so when I saw there was another lady who made purses, I instantly messaged her. And so, yeah, we became friends that way. But she's really the only Etsy seller that I've met through Etsy. Mm-hmm. But a couple of people actually convoed me on Etsy because they must have seen my event somewhere. I'm not sure where.
Wow.
And so I found a couple of them that way. So I'm really excited about that.
Amazing. That's nice. That's impressive. So let's backtrack a bit. Tell us what you sell on Etsy. Okay. I know, but I don't think.
Yes. No, my favorite thing is purses. I have always been a purse fanatic since the time that I was a little kid. My mom always had to buy me purses. So my Etsy shop, ironically enough, didn't start with purses so much. I was making purses and listing them, but my sales really started to come in when I started selling Bible covers, which I didn't expect. I just listed one that I'd made as a custom, and those just took off. And I feel like that really helped to establish me as a seller. And in the last, I'd say, 1.5 to 2 years, my purses online on Etsy have really taken off. And so I make linen and cotton purses, and also leather. I've been working a lot with leather, which is my favorite. And I also make the Bible covers in leather and linen and cotton as well.
Now, for the Bible covers, the Bibles come in all different sizes. How do you do that? Are they all custom or do you?
They're all custom.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I make a template based on the measurements that each person sends me. And I really didn't expect, I knew that they all come in different shapes and sizes, but you walk into a store and you see a lot of Bibles, they all look similar, but that 1/4 of an inch makes a huge difference. So I have a huge basket of templates, and sometimes I can find one already made that I need, but it never ceases to amaze me how many different sizes there are.
I know.
So yeah, I make each one custom. It's just easier that way.
Wow. So you'll always have something new to make because every manufacturer or publisher has different, not just different sizes, different thicknesses too.
Oh, sure.
And all that.
Different uses too, because I make some journal covers. I just kind of started making that out of a necessity for myself because I like to do journaling and things. So I made a cover that fits a standard composition book. And so if somebody's a journaler, then they could just order that and refill it themselves. But I've had also people who have wanted to cover a favorite book. So it really, they got their start as Bible covers only, but it's really kind of grown from there too. So I've covered many, many different kinds of books, it seems.
Wow, nice. And then you also make wristlets and clutches too.
And those are really popular. My favorites are the pleated wristlets and my peekaboo leather wristlets with the peekaboo pleat. I don't even know how I came up with that, but I just like a little bit of a print, but I'm really picky about my prints because I don't necessarily like to have recognizable brand prints. I
Yeah.
like to be a little bit more unique. So tend to stay away from prints, but my peekaboo pleats are sometimes vintage prints and things that I find that are hard to find. And I match them up with leather, and then I coat the cotton with vinyl so that it's easy to wipe clean, just like the leather is.
Wow.
And it kind of gives a pop of color. And
Mm-hmm.
my best-selling peekaboo wristlet has been the navy blue with the vintage floral. And
Yeah.
I'm almost out of that floral print, and I'm kind of scared to run out.
Oh, now how did you start making these? Are you self-taught?
Yes, actually, I am. For the most part, when I was in high school, my mom tried to teach me how to sew because she used to sew everything for me and my sister. She made us our clothes, and she was always making things for the house. Actually, my sister found a very old Bible cover that my mom made, and we laugh about it because it's like country blue with lace on it.
Yeah,
It's an
I've seen those.
1880s one. So we laugh about that because my Bible covers have evolved over the years. But she tried to teach me, and it was a nightmare. We were fighting the whole time. I hated sewing. So it really wasn't until I had kids of my own and was kind of looking for, because I've always been more of a creative person and enjoy doing different things like that.
Uh-huh.
So I decided to try to make myself a purse just out of boredom. And I really discovered that patterns are not my friend, that I need to design them from cutting to, I make my own patterns, and so I do it all that way. So I really found out by accident and just by pure will that I wanted to do it.
Wow. Nice. So
Yeah.
when you opened your Etsy store, what was your original intention? Was it just to get rid of excess stock, or did you have some other goal?
I think, if I recall correctly, when I first opened up my Etsy store and first listed my first couple of items, it was to make it easier for my local people to purchase things without having to necessarily come to my house.
Okay.
And I also had a couple people, friends in other states, who were saying, I have a friend who likes this purse that you sent me. She'd like to look for your things too. So at that point in time, I was doing more one of a kind items and listing them. So it was kind of just as a way to sell online. And I was just kind of testing the waters. But when my business here really started to grow, then it almost became the next natural step. That why am I only selling to people that I know? Why don't I branch out and sell to people that I don't know? And that's kind of when I really started to take Etsy seriously.
Oh, wow. So, okay, so you kind of did it somewhat differently in that you had your market already, and then you
Yeah.
pulled your market onto Etsy.
Yes.
And I guess that is one, I don't want to say argument, but that's one method people can use, is maybe start locally and
Yep.
then gain some momentum, get your products out there, get your name out there, and then you can bring people online and then expand from there.
There's something funny that you can look at. If you look back at my original sales, like 700 sales ago, you can see the original items I made, and they're hilarious because they are not my style at all. I kind of feel like when I was making things locally, I was making things based on what my customers wanted, not so much what my tastes were. And so you can kind of see when I started to come into my own style.
Oh, I do see busy
So,
hands, the busy
yeah,
hands bag. Yeah.
there's just funny little things. And
Yeah.
I think back then we were naming purse styles after people, and that doesn't work when you're selling online. So
Right.
I sometimes look back at those for comic relief and see where I've come.
Oh, custom order for Awkward Girl.
Yes, awkward girl. She was one of my first customers. I remember that.
Was she a local customer that you pulled online?
No, she was like she might have been my first Etsy customer, one of my very first.
Oh,
You know the one that you call up everybody you know and say, "Hey, I sold something on
yes.
Etsy."
To someone I don't know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she came back a couple times too.
Oh,
I bought
nice.
some, what we can say awkward girl bought some of my awkward first products. So that's kind of fun.
So, do you sell on Etsy full time, or do you work outside of selling on Etsy?
I do not work outside of this. This is my full-time job.
Nice.
Pretty much, and it really works out well for me. I was in a former life, I like to say, I actually worked in the spa business. I was an esthetician, and so I did facials and waxing and body services. But when my kids were really young, it became more difficult for me to find childcare. So I really like to say that, God's timing in this whole thing was not up to me at all, because I ended up quitting my job so that I didn't have to find childcare. And then I learned how to sew in that time off.
Oh,
And so this really just happened without me even having to give it much thought. And it's just grown to the point where when my girls are at school, I'm in here working. It's very rare that I'm not in here when they're gone.
right. So on average, how much time would you say you spend working on Etsy? Or your Etsy business.
If you were to ask my family, they'd probably say too much.
Too much, of course.
That's because I'm always thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
But I would say actual hours that I spend in here, probably 30 to 35. Maybe more if you'd factor in responding to emails and answering questions and making listings. I don't usually count that as working hours. I usually try to do those things in the evenings when my family is doing other stuff.
Right.
But working in my studio, like hours where I'm quote unquote open, is probably about 30 hours a week.
Okay. Well, that's
maybe a little more.
Pretty much full time, like you
Yeah.
said. So how do you think it's easier for you managing your time because the kids are in school and your husband's at work, so you pretty much have some, chunk of time to focus on just doing your Etsy stuff?
I do think that really helps, but the flip side of that is I'm trying to think of what it would be. It would be like my motivation and my discipline to stay with it, because there's always people who are inviting me out to coffee, or can you volunteer for this, or can you volunteer for that? And I've really had to learn how to say no, because it's the public's perception of what I do. Do you ever see those little things on Facebook where they're like, what my mother thinks I do, what the public thinks I do? And I always think that people think that I just sit in here and the birds are chirping outside, all is well, and that I can just do whatever I want. But really, if I'm not disciplined in sticking to my schedule, I don't get things done on time. And if I don't get things done on time, I have a customer who I already have their money, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And there's nothing worse than having to convo someone and say, I know I said 2 weeks, but I'm going to need a few more days.
Yeah.
So I do just try to explain to people, no, my short answer is I have to work. And I hope that they don't question that, because
Yes, and you're right. It does, when you're working full time from home, it does take more discipline, I think, because the distractions are more.
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah. And like you said, I think a lot of people might not really respect that you're working from home, because
like, oh, she's got it so easy. She can work whenever she wants.
Yeah, exactly. But, if you don't, it's worse, because then, there's a lot more catching up to do. You have to be very, like you said, very disciplined.
Well, and there's no one else to blame when things don't go the way that I plan. So if I fall behind on something, I can't blame it on somebody else, unless something's back ordered. Then it's somebody else's fault. But, as far as me just not being disciplined and getting things done when I say that I'm going to, all the responsibility falls on me. Yeah. So if I don't want to stress myself out, I just got to accept that and just go with it.
Now, is your Etsy shop profitable?
Yes, it is.
How long did it take you to go from break even to profitability? Do you remember?
Sort of, because do you know what? I'm so not a numbers person. My husband gives me a hard time all the time, because I have this huge drawer in my room, and all my receipts go into the drawer, and all of my invoices are pretty much online. So on January 1st, I will print up all my invoices and bring this huge box of receipts and give them to him, and he takes care of everything. But I think, it's shortly after I started selling on Etsy. At that time, I was also doing some online sales. I'm trying to think. There's those little flash sales. So I would mark my things down, but I'd sell. I remember listing my ruffle bags. This is when I first debuted the ruffle bag, which is one of my biggest sellers right now, or has been for the last 2 or 3 years now. But when I debuted that one on a daily deals site, they sold out within an hour. And all of a sudden, I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I have to make all of these now. And so I think that once that sale just kind of kicked everything off, because then I realized this is an actual job. And I think at that point is when I really started to be profitable, because I was making enough product to justify my my expenses.
Okay. So, I was going to ask you, so did you incorporate, actually, I don't think I've ever asked this before. So did you end up incorporating and getting a seller's permit so you can buy supplies in bulk, or do you still do like local retail for your raw materials?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm not incorporated. I do have a seller's permit
Yeah. Okay.
through my state, but I've never really been asked to use it. I'm really fortunate, and I have some really good connections for a lot of my supplies.
Okay.
Some of them I do have to buy at retail only because I cannot find what I'm looking for online, and I'm really picky about the materials that I use.
Okay.
So before I will buy anything, especially leather and things like that, I have to physically see it, hold it, and this is going to sound funny, but I have to smell it because I've already gotten bad leather that wasn't stored properly, and then it smells musty. So
Okay.
I don't necessarily go for the best price, but I did find a place that will work with me wholesale.
Okay.
And actually, I was putting together an order for that today. So
Oh.
I'm going to be ordering some fun colors.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep meaning to bring that up because I think, you don't necessarily have to incorporate, but if you have a seller's permit, I don't know if a lot of Etsy sellers know that you can buy at wholesale prices, and that just helps to increase your profit margin because you're not buying at retail
And that's right.
you're not paying. Well, I guess, I shouldn't say that. It depends on the state that you're in. But when you
Sure.
have a seller's permit, you do get to buy wholesale. So you get to purchase your supplies for less, and then you can make a bit more.
Well, and every penny counts. I mean, sometimes I just think about the money that I do spend on materials, and I'm always looking for ways that I can save on that because I never want to outprice my products to keep them out of reach of my customers.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of these customers too. I totally understand that it's hard to justify spending sometimes. I mean, some of my leather bags are, $179, or some of them are actually more than that, depending on the amount of time that goes into them.
Yeah.
And so I take that responsibility seriously that, this is going to be a splurge for this customer and I want her to use it for a very long time.
Right.
So how can I keep my material costs down so that I can pass that on to my customer, but yet still be able to pay my bills?
Right. Yeah.
It's something that I'm always looking at and always looking for new sources.
Right. And it takes a lot of thought too. I think, you need to put a lot of thought, not you, but sellers in general, into your pricing strategy, because you have to price one to recoup and to be profitable. You don't just want to be breaking even. Otherwise, it's not really a business if you're just breaking even.
Yeah. And, and a lot of the people that I know, it's a hobby in the sense that I love what I'm doing, but it is a business and it's my job. Right. I'm just fortunate that I love my job. But actually, a friend of mine and I, we were just talking. I don't know if I can say this because I'm using a term, but do you ever watch that show Shark Tank?
Yeah.
About that?
Love that show.
There. She's an Etsy seller, and she was selling these dog slings. I don't know if you happen to see this one.
No.
And we were wondering how in the world she gets her cashmere for $8 to, the material costs were so I can't imagine how that happens. But my friend, she has an Etsy shop, and she makes baby slings, and she said, I've really got to find some better sources.
Yeah. Well, I know sometimes people will go to factories and just work out some deal in person, where, if they agree to buy a certain quantity, then they can get a certain price. But cashmere for $8, I don't know, that does sound really rock bottom.
This could be a tip for somebody who might be hearing this, that the very first leather that I bought it from a local furniture manufacturer, and all it was scraps and cutoffs. But for what I'm doing, I only need small pieces sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I started out making just wristlets and things small out of leather, and I was able to buy their remnants and cutoffs for 25 cents a pound, which is nothing. So I just had boxes and boxes of these leather scraps. They stopped doing that because now they use the term recycle their leather, but actually I think it just gets turned into bonded leather. So, and I tried to go in there with the whole, I'm a local artist and support the local artists, but they said, no, we want to recycle. But
Where
I do think that these local manufacturers can be a great source, especially for somebody who doesn't need large pieces and large quantities. You can find some really good stuff.
Yeah, you're right. And actually that's a good tip. I used to do prints, and I would go to, actually I used to go to the local Michaels and get the, because you know how they will mount prints for you if you want to, and then
Yeah.
if you go to the section of the store where they do the framing and the mounting, they have scrap pieces of mat board and frames and all whatnot. And I would collect their scrap pieces and then put them together and reuse them, because usually they had enough, that depending on what you were making, or what you're trying to frame or mount, you could actually put stuff together from their scraps and create your own frame or your own. So
Well,
it's always good to ask locally.
and I think sometimes in a situation like that, you are able to be more creative too, because you have to work with what you have. So
Yeah.
you might end up with a really cool photo frame that you wouldn't have thought to put together if you were buying the pieces raw.
Right,
I think it's
exactly.
fun.
Yeah. So when you're creating a new item, what inspires you? Where do you get your ideas from?
I, you know, I think that some of the best ideas that I have just come from me. A lot, like my secret is a lot of times on Saturday or Sunday afternoons when I don't have to work, because I try to take off working on Saturdays and Sundays if at all possible. And I allow that time that if I do feel like coming into the studio and doing something, I just kind of allow myself to make something that I want to do. And so I come in here and just kind of start putting things together, thinking, what would I want to make for myself? And some of my best ideas have come that way. And actually, I have one right now that I'm really, really excited about, but I don't have time to make it right now.
Isn't that
So
always the problem?
I know.
Too many ideas and not enough time.
I know. So, I'm inspired by so many different things. Sometimes I'll see. I remember one time I saw a pair of boots that has nothing to do with the purse, but I looked at the way that they were stitched together, and it gave me an idea of how I could put some different pieces of leather together in a different way. And so I'm inspired by the craziest things, but it's usually when I see the materials, I see a shape, and I just I figure out what I want to do with it based on what I have.
Okay. Now, do you spend time looking at other Etsy shops that sell items similar to what you're
Oh,
carrying?
yeah. Oh, I love that's one of my favorite things to do, because I kind of feel like we're all in this big club together. And I love one of my favorite things, actually, that's how I got in contact with you. One of my favorite things to do, and I mean this sincerely, is when I see something that I like that somebody else is doing, I will send them a message and tell them, I appreciate what you're doing. And I will do that with other people who make purses on Etsy, because I understand what they put into
Nice.
it. And I remember I emailed you and I told you I love your program.
Yes, I remember.
So I do. I don't, because I'm sure that other Etsy sellers can relate to this. I do get requests from people, can you make this purse for me? And I cringe when I open up the email and there's a picture of somebody else's purse from Etsy or from any designer, because
Huh.
I would never want to take somebody else's idea and make it my own. So I do struggle with that. So I don't ever want to take somebody else's idea and call it mine.
Now,
But yeah, I
what?
just need to check.
Why would they not buy it from the Etsy seller?
That's it's funny that you say that, because I actually respond and tell them it would be best if you'd just buy from that other seller. But
Yeah.
oftentimes the answer is either that they've already bought things from me, so they have a relationship with me,
Oh, I
and so
see.
they really want to buy from me. Or I haven't had this one much in recent years, but more so when I was selling more locally, they wanted it cheaper. Like, I love this $300 leather purse. Can you make it for me?
Oh, okay.
And that's almost double insulting.
I
Because I'm
know.
like, you don't like my thing and you want me to do it for cheap.
Yeah, yeah. Could you knock off this Coach purse for me?
Yeah. So I try to just be tactful and tell people in a very kind way that I don't like to. That's one artist vision. I have my own vision. I'm happy to work with you to give you the features and a certain
Yeah.
style that you might like, but I need to have some creative license to be able to make it my own. Um, because I have had many, many things that I've made that have never made it onto my Etsy shop, onto my Facebook page, or anything because they were so hideous to me because they weren't my vision. But the customers seem to like them. But
Oh, okay. So they were custom orders and
yeah,
you just made it and sent it, but
yeah.
never. So sometimes when you do get custom orders, do you then make them part of the line that you carry if you
Yes,
like them?
actually,
Okay.
I do. And some of my favorite things that I have made, some of the most beautiful things that I get the most compliments on, some of my more complex things have been custom orders. I don't know if you can see it on my shop, but I made a leather bag that was all patchwork. It almost looks like a stained glass window to me, and that was a custom order.
Hmm.
And I've since added it to my shop because I've had a lot of people commenting on that bag.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
And I'm just trying to think,
Nice.
I'm looking. Oh, and another newer item that I just added, a local girl that I actually graduated high school with. She emailed me and she wanted a leather version of one of my best-selling wristlets is the brown linen with the white lace on top. I make it a lot for brides.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she wanted that bag, but in black leather with white lace on top. And I was like, this is a great idea. So I've made them in a couple of other colors and I'm slowly adding them to my shop too. So I love it when people say, I love your style, but I'm looking for something bigger or smaller, or I love the
Right.
ruffles, but can we move them here?
Right. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things because it just really confirms that I'm on the right track, but
Hmm.
it gives me some freedom to make something new too.
Now, what's the biggest bridal party you've ever made for? And just so I explain why I'm asking that, you
Sure.
make wristlets for bridal parties. So, like,
Mhm.
all the bridesmaids have the same wristlet
Yeah.
or clutch. What's the largest number you've made for one wedding party?
I think it was 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. Did you get the idea to do that? Because I think that would be a great gift for the bridal train. It's nice,
Yeah.
it's useful, and they can always use it again. And the colors are, like with the dress, sometimes the color you just can never wear it again. But with the clutch or wristlet, you can always reuse it regardless of the color. How did
Well,
you get the idea to do weddings?
actually, that was another local customer who she was
Oh,
somebody that I knew, and she said, I'm getting married, and I'm wondering if you could make clutches for my bridesmaids. And she wanted, unfortunately, I just love it when this happens, but she loved the style of one of my clutches, so she just ordered five or six of them.
hmm.
And, so that's kind of where the idea came from. And I had a few more like that locally. So I don't think I really started to advertise on Etsy that I did bridesmaid clutches until it might not have even been probably in the last year. So this summer was a bigger summer for bridesmaids because it was kind of a market I never really tried to tap into.
Hmm.
It was kind of more of an exception, like, oh, this will be fun. I'll do a wedding.
Yeah.
But so I actually just got an order for one this morning for eight of the brown linen and white lace. And I can't wait to get it to her because the brides typically are so excited because they get to give it as a gift, and
Yeah.
that's fun.
Do you find that you're a little bit more stressed doing wedding stuff because there's so much pressure around weddings? There are deadlines. It needs to look brides can be picky. I know. It needs
Absolutely.
to look a certain way. The color can be too off from the dress or the shoes.
Yep. And actually, you just made me think, and this could not be a good thing, but I mailed out an order a couple of weeks ago for a bride, and she's in Canada. And so that's probably been my most stressful bridal order because it was out of the country. And
Mhm.
as you know, once you ship something out of the US, you don't really know where it is.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I'm kind of thinking, I hope she got that because I think her wedding is tomorrow. So
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to follow up with her after I'm
Yeah.
done.
Well, I'm assuming if she didn't, you would hear about it.
I'm pretty sure I
Because
would. Yeah.
brides get pretty vocal, even the
Yeah.
most demure when
And
it
that
comes to the
so
wedding. Yeah.
I've had really good brides so far. I have not had any bridezillas or anything like that. As a matter of fact, the brides that I have worked with have been so beyond grateful, and I get such great emails from them when they get them.
Nice.
So, yeah, so I've really enjoyed it so far.
So speaking about that, have you had any bad experiences on Etsy?
I have to laugh because every time you ask this question, I always wonder because oftentimes I'll hear the people say, "No, I really haven't," but I'm like, well, then you must not have sold a lot of stuff because I think that when you start, the more orders you start to get, the more of
Yep.
these. I just call them like,
Bound to happen.
Yeah, I don't want to give it a bad term, but we'll call it like a discrepancy. And the one that stands out the most to me, obviously, if anybody has any sort of complaint, I always stand behind my product. So,
Mm-hmm.
if something happens, even for example, I just had a lady who had a purse that she bought a year ago, and she just sent it back to me to ask me to just kind of tighten it up because she had been using it hard for over a year, and it was
Oh.
so dirty that I had to wash it and everything. But I wanted to give her a bag that she could use for another year.
Hmm.
So I said absolutely no problem because I made it for you to use it for a long time. So I have not yet
Oh.
had any conflicts that have not been resolved relatively easy. And there's only one that stands out that I still have no answers to this one. And this was it was my first year that I was selling on Etsy. And I had a lady order a Bible cover. She loved it. The feedback she gave me was awesome. She followed up with me 2 or 3 times afterwards, sending me pictures of her using it.
Oh,
And
nice.
she loved it. And then all of a sudden, about a month later, I got a PayPal dispute, and she had asked for all her money back.
Whoa.
And I emailed her. I actually even called her because I happened to have her phone number. She wouldn't take my phone calls. She wouldn't respond to me. So to this day, I have no idea what happened. But PayPal ended up siding with me and giving me the money back. But because I had proof that she had received the product because of the pictures that she had sent.
Oh,
Yeah, but I've never had a person who was so happy and then asked for their money back. It just I don't know. It was kind of scary
that
because
is odd.
yeah, I felt like a failure. But I feel like the after it was all said and done, it may have been, and I don't know this for sure. I'm just telling myself this to make me feel better.
Uh-huh.
But she might have been a person who just wanted to get something for nothing. And
Well, how long after did she ask for her money back?
um, I want to say it was probably close to a month
Oh,
after.
wow. Okay.
So, but she had been sending pictures up to 2 weeks after she got it when she was using it. So,
Huh.
yeah, it was just a very strange situation. And that was the only one that I never felt like I had a chance to make it
To
right with her.
fix, right.
Yeah.
That's like late onset buyer's remorse a month
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was thinking was maybe she, you know how you can you know, buy from different sellers. Maybe she mistakenly selected
Oh,
yours for the return.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, yeah,
See, that
because
makes me feel a little bit better.
right, yes, that and it's funny how she set up your alibi for you by sending you the
I
pictures.
know.
It's
Well,
funny.
that's what I'm horrible about deleting emails. As a matter of fact, I'm looking right now and I have over 4,000 emails in my inbox that are unread. But
Oh, you're
I,
like me.
I
I
know. And I'm like, it'd be so much easier to find what I'm looking for. And then I try to delete them and I always end up deleting something I needed. But in this situation, it reminds me, maybe I should just keep my emails because you never know when you're going to need those messages that people sent you to
Yeah. I have
say,
an Etsy folder, so everything that
oh,
comes from
okay.
Etsy I just put there so I can delete other stuff. But yes, I still have like well, I did.
Yeah.
I've started deleting stuff because eventually somebody will send you an email and tell you that you're getting to the max. But
Oh, I
yeah.
never thought of that.
Yeah, so yeah, keep an Etsy folder.
I should actually, I have a folder where I kept all of the applications for my art fair or my artist festival that I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
And when I was deleting all of my Etsy emails, they must have used the word Etsy in some of those, and it actually deleted them.
Oh no.
So I don't know what I did wrong, but so I stopped until after the holidays, then I'll delete
Then you'll
everything
continue.
again. I'm like, we'll just wipe the slate clean some other time.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about shop promotion. I always like talking about this because
Oh,
everyone does things differently. How do you promote your Etsy shop? What's working for you?
well, it's so funny because usually the things that you don't plan are the things that work the best.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one blogger who I followed her blog. It's called Not Just a Housewife.
Okay.
And she does like home improvement type things. And a couple of years ago, her husband lost his job, and she was just talking about how hard it was going to be to basically just live on one income until he found something else. And it was like a traumatic time for her. And so my heart just kind of broke for her. So I said, why don't I send you a new purse? Because I think she had something coming up that she needed a purse for. So I sent it to her, and she was so thrilled that she wrote a post about it. And I really wasn't doing it for promotion. I really just wanted her to have it.
Oh.
And when she got the purse, she took some pictures, just selfies of herself with this
Yeah.
purse, made one post about it. And to this day, and this is, I think I looked and it was in 2012 that I did this. Every single week on Etsy, she shows up in my stats. Every single one
Wow.
or two people, maybe. I don't know how they're seeing that post, but that post must show up somewhere on her page because I've never advertised on her page. But I get traffic from her blog to this day.
Wow.
So, but bloggers are really I love bloggers for
For
promotion.
promotion. Do
Yeah.
you ever directly approach any to actively promote your Etsy shop?
I really have not.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that I've worked with have approached me, and I do get approached by a lot of bloggers, so I've really had to kind of start to pick and choose. Um,
Oh,
so I'll have to kind of see how that goes. But I actually just sent some stuff to another blogger who approached me through Etsy. Um,
okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Now, what criteria do you use when you're picking which bloggers you're going to team up with? I think this is very valuable for other sellers because there are a lot of people. I know there are some teams on Etsy where bloggers and people who are looking, Etsy sellers who are looking to get on blogs, there are teams that pair people up. But what criteria do you use?
Well, I wish I had a scientific formula, but I usually go with my gut on things. But I also do some research some of the, I mean, because I get a lot of things in convos that I kind of perceive as being spammy, asking me to be in different art festivals and things like that area, or people ask me for consignment. And I hate to say it, but I pretty much ignore all of those because that's just not where I want to focus my time.
Hmm.
But when a blogger sends me an email, if it's a good, and I take it as like an actual invitation to work with her, typically they will send me a link to their blog, they'll send me all their numbers, they'll send me a link to their Facebook, their Instagram, and I check all of those places and I say, I look to see how much traffic is coming in, how much interaction she has, other products that they have promoted in the past and see how many comments are on those posts.
Hmm.
So I kind of just I just kind of browse around on their sites and just see if it looks like some place that I'd like to be represented.
Oh, great. Okay, well, that's helpful because then at least, people listening will know, check out
Yeah,
who is approaching you instead of just saying yes to anyone. Even though sometimes I understand it can be tempting to
yeah.
just want to go with anyone who says, "Hey, come, I'll promote you." But yeah,
Well, and it's tough too because sometimes a giveaway in a blog can be an amazing thing, and sometimes a giveaway in a blog can turn into the blogger was looking for something for free. And
mm,
it's hard to like decipher which is which, but so I'm never opposed to doing a giveaway if I think it's going to bring me a lot of traffic. But what I've had to learn is that giveaways are a lot of work for the blogger. So if she's really serious about wanting to work with me, she's going to be willing to promote the giveaway to bring traffic not only to her blog but to my shop as well. And so
yeah.
I just kind of look to see how they promote their own giveaways before I send them any products. Because otherwise, I think that oftentimes we are so anxious to promote our stuff that it's tempting to say yes to every person who asks if they can review an item or use a giveaway. So
Yeah.
you've just got to look and see what their history looks like with those things.
Yeah, Angie, you are so right. Let me tell you. I am working on doing my first giveaway,
Yeah.
and it's if you want to do it right,
Yep.
where the giveaway for me, what I'm doing, and this is my first one, and I want to make sure I do it the right way. It's
Yeah.
not just about promoting the podcast or the website. It's also about promoting the the shop that's quote unquote sponsoring the giveaway, because this is something somebody has spent time to create, spent time and effort doing, and they're giving this away. It's costing them to do this. And so it's work, because I'm looking at, okay, how do I promote that shop? How do I get more traffic to that shop? You can never guarantee that they will get sales, because you can't control what people do.
Well,
but
and you can't track it very well either. Like if a sale goes through, you can't track
you
it based
can't
on the blog.
exactly. Yeah, you can't track it. But the whole point is, to get exposure for, for that shop or whoever is doing the giveaway. And it's not easy. So,
No, it's not.
yeah, I thought, oh, I'll do it, because you hear all these people say, oh, I'm doing a giveaway, and so I thought, well, let me try one. And if you want to do it right, it takes some effort.
It does take a lot. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of just time sitting in front of your computer, setting things up. And
yeah,
I think as a seller, I used to, and it took me a while to learn this, and I don't remember how I learned this, but it took me a while to realize the value in a giveaway for me, because I used to have this mindset of, I'm sending you an item, but you won't even give me a sidebar ad. Like I used to expect more than just the giveaway, until I realized from doing my own giveaways how much goes into them, that I realized that me giving that product is like my trade, is that they will promote my giveaway.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of train my mind to stop looking at what can they do for me, because we're kind of both doing something for each other, just to give away alone.
Right.
So.
Right. Exactly. It's mutual, and there's effort on both parts. So, and I think this should be like not a warning, but just informational for anyone who's any Etsy seller who's considering doing a giveaway. Is there is some responsibility on your part, other than just sending in your item, because you do want to make sure that your shop is represented properly, and you do want to make sure that you get, the proper exposure. So even on your side, you can do some promotion and things on your end to help make it more successful. That Absolutely. In addition to what the blogger or website person is doing. And
I usually do try to do that. And I even try to promote the blog before the giveaway goes live, so that people aren't just seeing, oh, they're doing a giveaway, so that's why she's promoting them. I try to build a little bit of awareness to the fact that I'm working with this person in an indirect way. So I'll kind of be like, did you see this post? And I'll post it on my Facebook page or something. So.
Yeah, excellent. Now, what about social media? Do you use social media very much for promoting?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Social media. Do you use it very much for promoting your Etsy shop?
I do. I try to. Okay, so I'm kind of in the process right now of, I used to use Facebook almost exclusively for my shop promotion, and I had a lot of interaction on there. But as everybody else is saying, that since the algorithms have changed, my people aren't seeing my posts as much as they used to. Yeah. So now I'm trying to get better about going over to Instagram. And I love Instagram. I think it's so much fun. And plus I love that I take a picture with my phone and I can automatically post it to Twitter and to Facebook. Okay. Because that's really the only way I ever post to Twitter, because I'm horrible with Twitter. It's just one of those things I've never taken the time to figure out how it works. Yeah. So I'm afraid people will be disappointed if they followed me on Twitter, but I do have an account.
Yeah, at least you have one.
Yeah.
On Instagram, does Instagram actually drive traffic to your Etsy shop, or is it just a way for you to display what items you have?
It's hard because Instagram does not have links within the post. Like on Facebook, I could put a link on there and then it'll show that my person came from Facebook. Instagram is more meant to be like a mobile social media type thing, so you can't actually put a link in your post.
Right.
So somebody would have to retype it from the browser to probably get to the item. So there's absolutely no way for me to track, or that I found so far, people who are coming from Instagram to like my Etsy page or my website. But that being said, I have found people who, like I've found some other people who make purses on Instagram who follow me. So they must be finding me within Instagram. And it's kind of fun because I've made some new friends that way through Instagram. But that's the only downfall to Instagram, is there really is no way to track if it's turning into sales. Right. But I do like the interaction that I see on there.
Okay. So you have like real conversations with people on Instagram.
I do, yeah, and it's a lot less intimidating to me than Twitter. Even though it has hashtags
Mm.
and all these other things, like it for whatever reason it doesn't intimidate me. You know what I need to do is I need to have my 16-year-old nephew come over here and tell me how to use Twitter. That's what I need to do.
See, we're the reverse. I get Twitter. Instagram is still kind of nebulous to me. Like, what? Just post a picture and then what? You know?
Well, I love pictures. I'm such a nerd this way. I love to look into people's studios. So that's what I love about Instagram is following other artists and seeing where they work and what tools they use and
Mm.
seeing the raw product. I love that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things I really like about it.
How about Pinterest? Do you do anything on Pinterest?
I do. I have an account. It's only my business account, but it's also my personal account. I just use them both under my Gathered and Sown name.
Okay.
Um, so I think that I use it more for personal reasons, but I do try to post my products on there as well.
Okay.
So I do get some followers on Pinterest that follow my bags exclusively, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
And with that, I also, based on one of your past interviews, I started on Wanalo recently too.
Ah, yeah.
Somebody was just talking about that. So I'm just starting to get into that now too.
Oh, yes, yes. I know. I think a number of Etsy sellers are on there as well.
Yeah.
I haven't ventured out there yet, other than, from what past discussions with other
Well,
guests.
it's like Pinterest. You can kind of get sucked in, so you need to allow yourself some time to
Yeah.
yourself time to look at all the beautiful things that you're going to find on there. But I have seen traffic from it, and I think I've only been on there for about a week or two, maybe 2 weeks, and I have seen some traffic in my stats from that too.
Okay. Now, one that I don't think anyone has mentioned yet, but I recently just started playing around on, and I've seen a lot of traffic from is Reddit. Are you familiar with Reddit?
I am not, and I have seen traffic from there as well, and I have really no idea what it is.
Yeah, it's like I don't even know how to explain it because I'm not even sure exactly how to explain it. It's like
Yeah.
a techie hangout forum type of place. It's like a
Okay.
forum. Yeah, message boards. And there are all these subreddits on anything and everything you could possibly want to talk about with other people who are interested in them. And
Okay.
there's an Etsy subreddit, and everyone just talks about Etsy. And yeah, so I hopped on there. Sorry?
I said that sounds like fun.
It is actually. I get stuck on there because you join a conversation, and before you know it, you're talking to a number of different people,
Okay.
and yeah, it's nice. I like it because it's interactive, and people are
I'm
very interactive there. So you can't really post. You can post links to your Etsy shop or links to items, but they don't show up as well. It depends on how you set it up. You can set your feed up to see the pictures, but
Okay.
you get to post links, so they lead directly back to your shop. So I'm guessing maybe somebody talked about something in your shop and posted a link, and maybe that's how you're getting traffic from it. But
Oh,
I
that's
see a lot of traffic coming from Reddit.
Well, I just wrote it down on a little piece of paper here, and I'm going to look at it after we're done because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's a missed opportunity. I got to check this out.
yeah. Take a look. Okay. Now you also have a website, gatheredandsown.com. What do you
Yeah.
primarily do with your website?
Well, my website is quite weak, I will admit. I it right now it's pretty much a landing page for events that I do. I do try to teach. I don't no, I shouldn't say try. I do teach locally. I teach people about selling on Etsy, and so I do
Mm.
have a landing page on there. I have a landing page right now for my Handmade Chic, which is my artist festival that I'm doing. So I kind of use it as a place to send people if they want more information than what I'm posting on Facebook or in newsletter or anything like that. So that's pretty much what it is. And so I update it when I need to with those events. I try to keep those current. But besides that, it's really underutilized, and I'm totally aware of that. But it's finding the time,
Yeah,
to
it's
keep
all
it.
about time. I mean,
Yeah.
if we had more than 24 hours, I think we would all be more
No,
productive,
I'd be
right?
all set. I actually have a blog link on there, and I'm so bad about my blog. I used to be pretty good about it, but I do intend to get I don't need to post regularly, but I do feel like I should post something now and again
Now and
about
then, right?
business. Something of interest. So I actually have a post in mind that I'm going to be doing soon. I just have to do it.
Oh,
So
good. Now, you said that you use the blog as a landing page for events that you hold. You said you teach people how to sell on Etsy?
I do. Yep.
Oh, so do you hold like a class in, how do you do that?
Well, it started out as I would get multiple phone calls from people that I know saying, "Hey, Angie, I really want to open an Etsy shop. Can you show me what to do?"
Uh-huh.
And what was happening is people were coming here, and I'd say, "You can come over here, but you have to know that I'm also working, but I'll be here to answer questions." But what happens is that when people come into my home, they tend to stay for hours. And and I'm guilty because I talk a lot, so I come in here. But so I just started to realize that I needed to have one central time where I can teach a number of people in a group setting. So I do them as like a small group. The last one I did was, I think, 10 ladies that we all kind of sat together.
Wow.
The next one that I'm going to do is like, it's actually in a couple of weeks on a Saturday morning, and it's going to be even smaller because it's going to be for people who are just opening, like they don't even have a banner or anything like that
Oh,
yet.
wow.
So I want to allow time for us to bounce ideas off of each other, get an opinion of a couple other people. So it's just kind of my way of, I guess this is a horrible saying, but I want to kill more birds with one stone.
Oh, well,
So,
but you're helping people do something great.
and it's so much fun. I love that, that environment of a bunch of people who love creative things and they want to create things, and we all get to talk about the things that we love to do. I mean, it's really a win-win. So,
Yeah. Wow. Good deal.
yeah.
Have you ever considered closing your Etsy shop?
No, I don't think I have. Like, I'm always thinking of what to do next. How can I make it bigger? So I don't think that I've ever had a thought of I can't do this anymore because, I'm always motivated to do more. So I can't think of a time that I've ever wanted to close.
Do you find that sometimes you get in a creative rut? And if you do, how do you come out?
Yeah, of course I do. It is just a part of being a human, I think.
Yeah.
But I can't say it enough that those chunks of time on the weekends where I allow myself just to do what I want to do, it's so helpful. And so I just allowing myself to not have any pressure to fill in order or to think about something that somebody else wants, but just to think about something that I want. I really feel like that helps to get things moving along again, and it gives me some good ideas. And oftentimes I'll think of ways that I can make my other products better based on things that I'm trying to piece together as a new product. So I really just think sometimes just taking the pressure off and just allowing myself to have fun really helps me get out of that.
Okay. So do you not do any order fulfillment or anything on the weekends?
No, I usually end up doing some, especially if I'm under pressure.
Right.
But it's kind of if I get to do some things over the weekend because I have things to get done, I see it as like, I kind of see that as a bonus more so than an assignment. So I try to be honest with people, and if it looks like I'm not going to finish something on a Friday that I hope to ship out that day, I will usually message them and just say, "Hey, your item is almost done. I didn't get it done. I will try to work on it over the weekend, but I never promise that I'll get something done over the weekend."
Right.
So, I mean, honestly, I wake up in the middle of the night if I don't have something done. So chances are I will get it done. But I try not to promise because I have to protect that time a little bit,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I get that. So what would you say are, now you kind of came onto Etsy differently than most other people because
Yeah.
you brought your market. But what would you say are some of the things that you think you did that helped you to be more successful that you think others might be able to replicate?
Well, I think a big thing that is said all the time on Etsy, I see it in the forums, I see it on Teams, and I hear it on podcasts and things too, is you just have to represent your product well, and you have to sell your own product. So you can't, I mean, every picture I take is not going to be my favorite, but you have to really put effort into taking your product photos. You have to spend time making your product presentable to the person who might be seeing it, because you really only get one chance for them to see your product.
Yeah.
So I try to look at my pictures like as a thumbnail and say, would I just skip over this if it was tiny like that, or am I going to click on it? So I think that representing what you do to the best of your abilities and not just giving it, because if you look at my early pictures too, they were horrible. It was like, everybody has those pictures and you can't take them off. But, so I think that initially your response, like you want to get all your items on there and you want to make stuff and you want to get it listed. But I always just tell people, just take your time and do it right and represent yourself well as a professional, even if you don't feel like a professional. Because I have a friend who I just helped her start her Etsy shop. She's actually the one who convinced me that I need to do this class. And I'm so proud of her. I just sang her praises on Facebook yesterday because she only opened her shop a few months ago and she's already had 71 sales.
What?
Like, she has completely just taken off. And she says that it's because I'm her Etsy guru. And it's because she's so awesome. So we have this argument going back and forth. But her pictures are beautiful. And she sells baby slings. And like right from the beginning, I said, how do you want to represent your brand? And she said, well, I'm not, I don't want to like criticize anybody's taste, but there's a look to most of the baby slings that you look at on Etsy. Mm-hmm. And she said, that's not me. She said, I'm a little bit more contemporary. I'm a little bit more city. And so she represented her products with the feeling that she wanted her brand to portray. And I think that just has gone so far with her because she speaks to those moms who don't want to be, typical mom that's portrayed on Etsy with the baby slings.
Right. So, do you want to say the name of our Etsy shop, or do you think she wouldn't want to?
No, she would love it if I did, because she knows that I'm on the phone with you right now.
Oh, okay.
Her shop is 419 Park, so it's number 419 and then PARK.
419 Park.
Yep.
Great. And so I'll have a link to her shop as well if people want to go and check that out. And also a link to the Not Just a Housewife blog too. So folks can check that out in addition to where you are as well. So your Etsy shop, your website. But what's the best way people can reach you if they need to or want to get in touch with you?
Well, Etsy convos are typically, if you're contacting me about anything about purses, that's probably the best way to get me, where you'll get me quick and thoroughly. Like I'll respond because emails tend to get buried. But people can also email me at contact@gathered-sown.com. Okay. So if they don't have an Etsy account and they don't want to go that route, they can email me too. But those are probably the best ways.
Okay. And if someone doesn't have an Etsy account and they want to get something from you, can they order it if they just contact you by email?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I've done that before.
Okay. And you said it was contact@gathered-sown.com.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. So I will have all these links to reach Angie on the website. Feel free to reach out to her. And Angie, thank you so much for being my guest. It's like I was talking to someone I've known for a while, granted 2 months, but
it's a lot of fun. And and like I said, it's just so much fun because hearing you talking and actually interacting back is great because I'm so used to just listening to you. So this is just a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. No more one-sided conversation, huh?
That's great. You're even better when I get to talk back and forth.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you for listening to the podcast this week. And I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.